Welcome everybody. Happy Monday to you all. It is a busy day today and we have a lot to get into. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday, and you guys can see the snow has got me still in Holiday Studios, but my co-host, Big O, is holding it down in the studio. What's up, Big O? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Trey Holiday. How are you?
I'm well.
Yeah, I see. You look comfortable out there in Holiday Studios. I can tell you this for people wondering: most of the streets in downtown Seattle, the arterial ones in downtown, that's where our studio is here in Pioneer Square. Man, they're open, they're clear, they're just wet. Not much going on. There's still some snow on the sides of the streets, but downtown Seattle is very navigable. I'm not like throwing shade to you by saying that. I'm just letting people know who might be curious as to what the conditions of the streets are down here.
No shade felt, brother. Absolutely.
I think there might be enough shade to be thrown here in the next 1 hour. Hey, we got a special treat. Somebody joining us for the whole 1 hour today. And actually, he's got a lot of updated news and information regarding the tragic shooting up there at the Northwest African American Museum. A lot of people here know him from Clapback Culture, which is every Thursday at 7 p.m. with Julia Jesse. Oya, Dia Alessandro, welcome back to the studio, by the way, Oya.
Thank you.
It's good to see you here. Please bring in Mike Davis of the South Seattle Emerald.
Hey, good morning, y'all.
Morning, Mike.
Looking good, Mike Davis.
Feeling good, man. I'm glad this snow's melting, man.
Got all this melanin and long hair popping. I told Mike Davis, I said, man, I would trade it all just to have that hairline. All right. Hey, so we got some real serious news here today. Real deal. We got some updates on what happened up there. This tragedy that happened up there at the Northwest African American Museum at the Urban League Village Apartments. Mike Davis had some reporting on that, also following up on some reporting that Justin Carter from Capitol Hill Seattle blog did, as well as Hannah Scott over at Cairo FM. And also I talked to the Black Brilliance researchers. I talked to Sean Glaze yesterday for an update about Black Brilliance, what's happening. And of course, I guess Treyana Holiday, Treyana Holiday is here as well to give an update from KCEN. Also, it's African American Legislative Day. It's going on right now. We're also streaming that on across all of our platforms. People might have saw that. But we got some heavy news today, Mike. And I thought we usually end the show with something like this, but I thought that we was going to try to center ourselves real quick. And we've got Tia. A lot of people might know her on Instagram. I am Tia Nache. She put out a poem yesterday on her IG that's already blowing up, and it's called Black Love. We're going to play this first, then we're going to get into this heavy news.
Black love, 50-50 has never been a real thing. See, black love requires you to be unconditionally committed. So if accurate math is a requirement for your sacrifice, you have already chosen wrong. Sometimes I'm the lyrics and the instruments only asking him to sing along. Sometimes he is the verse. We just simply want to be a song sung. Be the moon and the sun and a sky that it always has room, existing always unconsumed. We won't fight about who gave more because we know that math is unnecessary to graph. Black love is unequivocally the most powerful, but also the most opposed. It grows through the toughest of concrete cracks. It's a healer of all things black. It soothes. Like the gospel, it's the good news. It saves and survives again and again. It evolves like creation learned land after it originally learned to swim, a reinvention through time. My favorite color has always been and always will be black. And if I can love in that shade unafraid, I'd have it no other way. They say black is and black ain't. But if you'd allow me to paint our love's light, Kahindi wildly bright, I'm sure you'd see the masterpiece we are and have always been. Black love is where love itself begins. Our love grips the soil like the roots of old trees. Our love endures every storm and every breeze. Our knees soar because we'll refuse to fold, be it the warmth, the summer's promise, or the real of the winter's cold. Black love is soul food. warmed up the next day. Better because we chose to stay. There is something so beautiful about holding on. I am sometimes asking him to be what he's never seen. Sometimes penalized for another's failure or lies. She wants to trust, but a vessel broken sometimes can't contain or have room for more pain. So she is bursting all the time without cause. See, black love chooses, or rather decides, to love beyond our flaws. Black love beats the odds. After told it's somehow some inferior iteration, we know that black love is God's creation. You make me feel like I've swallowed a jar of butterflies. My heart flutters and rain fills my eyes. I've tried to resist the overwhelm of this. I am sometimes remiss in telling you how often my heart skips. Who could predict we'd make it through the thin and thick? Sometimes square pegs and round holes fit the math. That doesn't always add up. But we've showed our work, added the truth, and subtracted the hurt. There is no test we cannot pass. So when they ask us how, we'll say it's more about why.
Man, swallowed a whole jar of butterflies.
My sister gets it in, okay? Let me tell you a little something about Tia Nashe. Now, I mean, kudos, bravo, because she is absolutely right. And when you're talking about black love, to be honest, it really is about the unconditional value that love actually holds. And I am so glad that we opened our show today, African American Legislative Day, when folks are off of work. Some of y'all are off of work for President's Day. At the end of the day, that was a great way to start. Welcome that message in, and I hope all of us are taking it into our hearts.
Yeah, and that's Tia Yarbrough, and you can find her on Instagram, and I am Tia Nache, Nache. All right, Mike Davis, there's a few things here. When we originally talked, of course, it was an update, and we'll get right into that as to up there at NAM. And really the history actually of the shooter, Greg Taylor. There's actually a documented history, and you actually have some people on record. Also, everybody has been trying to reach out to the Urban League, anybody from the Urban League. And actually, Hannah talked about that this morning. She said that no one's gotten back to you. You actually spoke to somebody from the Urban League, and so we'll talk about that. But also, it's African American Legislative Day. And it looks like yesterday that Black Lives Matter, Seattle, King County decided to pull out of this event because they have an issue with King County equity now. Now, lucky for us, KCM has been in the news a lot. We got a KCM person right here so we can really go to the source. So we're going to keep you around for both of those things. But before I get to you, Mike, let's bring up this overlay from Capitol Hill, Seattle. So big shout out to Justin Carter at CapitolHillSeattle.com. That's Capitol Hill Seattle blog. I bring this up because, sometimes the small guys are really out there doing the work as far as is reporting. This was February 11th. Suspect shot and killed by police in Central District was maintenance man with history of threats at Urban League Village apartments. And the thing is that Justin Carter took a lot of heat when he first put this article out. We were like, oh, do you know, and this and that. And he showed a lot of courage. He put it out, and people were hammering Justin on it. But it turns out, Mike Davis, that there really was a history of incidents there with this shooter.
Absolutely, there was, and all of these situations are complicated when you're talking about people because you can't really put personalities in one box. So one thing that I do want to point out about Gregory Taylor is that when you talk to the people that knew him, one thing that they would say about him pretty consistently was that he wasn't known to be on drugs or to use alcohol. However, he was known to maybe have some issues of mental stability. But I mean, working as a grounds person, it sounds to me like he would often come to work armed with the weapon. And there were multiple instances where he's pulled weapons on people while being at work. And a lot of the sources say that the property management knew about this. I can't say that the Urban League specifically knew, but this is their building and this is their property. And there has to be some level of accountability that the Urban League has when you have a worker that, he has a history of not only pulling guns on people while at work, but also having just multiple incidents where the police had to be called, even having one incident last week where the police had to be called to come give him some assistance.
Right. And the thing is they've just like you. And we've kind of stepped back here and letting the other reporters do the reporting. You've been on top of this. Capitol Hill, Seattle.com has been on top of this. Hannah Scott over at Cairo FM has been on top of this. But one of the things is talking to the residents there, a lot of them don't want to go on the record, although you talk to some people who are actually over there on the record, is that they'll tell you. And me and kind of Treyana was kind of alluding to this last week that, man, it's ultimately going to come out. But they'll tell you that it's been time after time of run-ins, and people will tell you that they've been talking to the property management company, Coast Property Management, who, by the way, hired a PR firm to handle this. They're sending people to the PR firms. The way that it's been is people have been contacting the Urban League. Urban League's been sending people to Coast Property Management. Coast Property Management's been sending people to their PR firm. But I concur with you that there has been a long track record of people making the management aware of Greg Taylor's behavior. And actually, SPD, I'm waiting for the actual details of it. But in conversations with them, they're like, yes, they've been out there before in dealing with Greg Taylor. A lot of that very well might be is that, a 911 call around a mental break. And it very well might be that the fire department doesn't feel, had called in the police as a backup measure rather than the police being called because of a crime happening. But we see that there's all kinds of cracks all the way around this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I understand, making the distinction as to whether, it was the police or it was the fire department because of a mental break. But no matter what it is, these are things that the property management company knew, yet he was still employed. And I think that, you also have the situation where he was a resident who lived there. And then he also spent some hours of the day working, doing maintenance and grounds work. So I think that you could have this situation where sometimes the two get mixed because it's hard to know when he's going to be on duty and off duty if he lives at the property that he works at. But I mean, some of the details that are going to be in the story that's going to come out in the South Seattle Emerald are a little bit shocking. And I can think of one particular situation where someone was on the property using drugs, and Gregory Taylor literally put a gun to this person's head to get them to leave the property. And, I've never seen a groundskeeper with those type of duties or those type of responsibilities. I also don't understand why a groundskeeper would need to be at work armed with a weapon and so willing to pull that weapon out while on duty. And, he continued to work there. So someone has to be accountable, whether it's Coast Property Management or the Urban League. And when I finally did get someone on the phone from the Urban League, it was the VP of operations. I mean, all he did was distance himself and say that, Coast Property manages, the Urban League has no knowledge of anyone that they hire. They have no knowledge of how they do their jobs and this and that. And I would say to them, if you're the Urban League and your commitment is to the Black community, how do you feel comfortable hiring this organization who you can look up and their whole board of directors is just white person, regional company, no ties, no connections to the actual community, to the central district where we have gentrification and displacement. And now you have these low income apartments that are supposed to bring people of color back into the neighborhood, and the Urban League is supposed to support them economically. That's a part of their mission statement. How can you be so hands off that you're not aware that somebody is running around and having all of these incidents while being on staff for the property management company that you hired?
Yeah. I'm going to throw this over there to Trey real quick, but I wanted to throw this in here as well. It's problematic, and I hope that we hear from the Urban League, to be honest with you, in a real way, because it's problematic because the Urban League is also down in Olympia lobbying on behalf of Black people in the Central District. So here we have, a tragic incident at a building in the Central District that has their name on it, Urban League Village. And they've distanced themselves from this. Like Mike said, man, and this is one of the things the tenants talked about, is that the property management company of this low-income housing development that has the Urban League's name, that houses the Northwest African American Museum, the property management company is from Bellevue, and has been very detached to the residents, is what we're hearing there. But like I said, this is also the same organization that's down there in Olympia lobbying on behalf of Black people. And here we are, Black media, and they won't even talk to us. Trey Holiday.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, this is exactly what some of the things we were alluding to last week. Oh, and this is why I want to highlight two things that Mike is talking about there. One is that Greg Taylor had issues of mental instability. The fact that he was on the grounds multiple times with a loaded weapon is a more than a cause to have him removed from the maintenance grounds position. Period. The facts that people in the building were uncomfortable and have dealt with different incidences with him is another reason why the property management should have stepped in. And one thing I want to say now about property management companies, there is a huge lack of them in terms of them being Black led. Urban League has a real responsibility here to speak to the constituents that they are saying that they support and that they actually represent down in Olympia. The fact that we're talking about this, Omari, in such a multi-pronged way just goes to show a lot of the complexities that we deal with in the Black community. We've been talking about the fact that there is not enough response people that understand mental health issues to be able to diffuse certain situations from a mental health perspective. We also understand that there are plenty of gaps with regard to Black-led property management companies that are doing this work, that stay committed and connected to the people that live in the building. This is a huge issue, and it goes across multiple sectors. And ultimately, we have a lot of things that we need to work on. And you are right, Omari, in terms of the Urban League speaking out on this issue right here and coming to community media first and foremost, not major media, but coming straight to the community media, because they do say that they represent Black people. And it is important that they be connected to these issues.
It's been 5 days. And guys started off with this real small, like, hey, Urban League, by the way, love to hear from you, so we can talk to you. And so it's something that started off real small. You talk about a molehill turning into a mountain. Their lack of communication with their community. And, I'm not one of those people who feels entitled, like Urban League has to talk to Omari. It's good. We're the smallest media in Seattle. We're by far, you can't even compare us to our brothers at the Emerald. We are tiny. So I don't have an expectation for people to come and talk to Converge or Omari, but I do have, when you talk about almost every single media outlet in this city had been chasing the Urban League and for some kind of statement. But on top of that, though, even more, what disturbs me about this situation, and centering this back on humanity here for a moment, is, man, how can they have an expectation for these victims, their family, the people that live in the apartment in that neighborhood to have any way to move forward if we can't even get a statement and comments or anything else out of the Urban League?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, no, I'm in agreement. It almost feels like the Urban League has abandoned that building completely. You have the encampment right in front of NAM that's been there since Juneteenth. It's just there. Then you have the property on the backside where the tenants live, where they've had all of these issues. And to be clear, there's more issues that happen on that property than issues that involve Gregory Taylor. There's all kind of stuff that happens, all sort of incidents that bring the police up there. And it goes unaddressed. The property management company, and I give them credit because, yes, they did come out and they made their statements early, but they don't have the commitment to the Black community that I expect the Urban League to have. And if the Urban League is truly committed to the Black community, how are they letting all of these things happen at their property and they're nowhere to be found?
Yeah. And one thing I do want to say, because you just mentioned the occupation there, Mike, is that's exactly when we think about the longest occupation in American history, it is right there at NAM. It is literally, that is historic. And the reason why is for things like this. people were talking about the fact that youth needed a place to be able to make and create their art, that it was a place that where we could have our own people there talking about mental health issues, bringing the community into the space. It was supposed to be built as a cultural hub. And instead, unfortunately, these opportunities and these necessary measures are not being met in this space. So again, I think that that's why we see people still out there since Juneteenth saying, look, we need more to be brought into this space. And some of the things you're talking about, Mike, actually would have been resolved with what their original vision was for the space.
I think that's probably, I think there's enough content, and we definitely have the capacity for a whole show about the occupation that's going on over there. One correction, Trey Holiday, the longest occupation of a publicly owned building.
Yes, sorry.
Is the occupation of the Coleman building right there, yes, which is now the Urban League Villages and the NAM Museum. Occupation lasted about 10 years. That was the longest occupation in America of a public building that occurred right there. And now there's a second occupation that's underway right now. I don't want to, and I'm not trying to shortchange that conversation, but we don't have enough time to really do a service to our viewers to explain what's going on with that occupation. So I would say that as far as the occupation goes, we defer that to another episode, so we can be as genuine as possible to our viewers and bring them the information that's out there.
I didn't mean to go there like that. I only brought the occupation up just to say that, you know, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's people who moved out. We got text messages, which is crazy because there's people who've moved out of that building. Like, and they'll send us text messages. They're like, hey, I just want to let you know what I'm saying? So people moved out. It's it's really untenable to use that word to live there. So there's been people that have been moving out of the building. I got all kinds of text messages and pictures and everything else going back now for a while. We just, like, man, we're a small operation here. So of course we can't cover everything, but I do have the evidence of it. It's documented, it's memorialized that people have been moving out of that building because they've been feeling the lack of concern from the property management company and from the Urban League.
Absolutely.
So, Mike Davis, in your reporting, what is there anything else that you found out as far as the shooter and as far as his history there at the building before we move on to the other side of the conversation?
I think we covered it. Just to reiterate, there's just so many issues, and it seems like it's mental health concerns. I have reports of times when it's like pouring down rain at 4:00 in the morning, and he's in Jimi Hendrix Park running across the grass and sliding like he was on the slip and slide. There's reports of times, I believe it was recently, where, he was just laid out in the grass, unresponsive, and people thought that he was dead and actually had to call, and an aid car had to come in. So, there's all of these issues that point to the possibility that Gregory Taylor may have had some mental issues. And I also reiterate again, when I talk to people that have known him for years and years, they all say the same: never met, never without. Also, this really does seem like a mental break. You can't have a situation where you have someone having those type of mental issues and they're walking around with a loaded gun. Right. Somebody should be accountable for that, for sure. Right.
And so a few things here, right? We got a lot of viewers in here, new viewers who are following this story. And also, speaking of that, though, Mike, I also want to say thank you to you, and again to Justin Carter and to Hannah Scott of helping push to change that narrative, because there's a lot more eyes on this right now. When a lot of people thought that, hey, it might have been a drug deal gone bad, and then this guy shot maybe 2 drug dealers or something, and then the police killed him, it wasn't that much concern that was out there. And I'll be honest with you, and I'm not bashing my colleagues in the media, because you can't be damned if you don't and damned if you do. Clearly, before the actual truth came out that this was random, it was like, well, this is whatever. But when people found out that this was a random act of violence, the reporting across all the news platforms in Seattle changed, and the whole conversation changed. So, definitely want to say thank you for being one of those people that's been pushing, people pushed out there to get the actual truth out. about what occurred over there at Nam. But one thing I wanted to point out, and this is clear for people who are just, tuning in, is that, again, this wasn't someone who on that day specifically had an episode. Well, clearly they had an episode. This wasn't somebody also who just happened to randomly be walking through the neighborhood. This is somebody who lived and worked in the building and had a long record of these episodes, especially regarding this firearm or firearms. The property management knew about it. The owners of the building, the Urban League, knew about it. The Seattle Fire had responded to it a few times, but when like Mike talks about this episode here, we're waiting to get the information from Seattle Fire and for Seattle Police. And a lot of people they're bringing up the ERPO. And Trey Holiday, if you remember, we had Alyssa from the DV unit over in prosecutor's office talk about the ERPO. That's the extreme risk protection order, in which you can go to court and you get an order and you get someone restrained from their gun. But I think the only way you can actually do an ERPO is you have to be a blood relative. You have to be related to them in order to get the ERPO. The other thing is some of the comments that I heard people saying was like, well, did people call the police? Did they tell the management? Did they do this and that? Or maybe black people be keeping it quiet in the hood and everything else. That's not the case. A lot of people in that building, it wasn't like, oh, well, I'm not going to be whatever. So a lot of people with kids live in that building. They had no problem reaching out and making people aware about this guy, right, Mike?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like the SPD was aware, building management was aware. Not only were the police called to the property multiple times, but I mean, people made reports to property management. So everyone was aware. And I do want to be clear, when I spoke with the VP of operations from Urban League, he did say that the Urban League had no idea. So that's a conflicting story from the people that I hear on the ground. But the Urban League stance is that they are not aware. They have no idea of anything that's happened involving Gregory Taylor.
Right. And now the flip side, Mike Davis, you did a lot of reporting there and clearly, and it shows. And when can people expect this article to come out in the South Seattle Emerald?
It'll be out later today.
Okay, so later today, and we'll tweet it out, and so we'll let everybody know when it's out there. So you did a lot of reporting talking about the history of the shooter, Greg Taylor, and the history of what's been going on in the building. But you also talked to residents in the neighborhood as well, who told you that they had some concern about how this Greg Taylor was killed.
Absolutely. Also, I mean, the SPD shot so many bullets through that park. I can't even describe to you the scene that I saw. I had a local resident who is quoted in the article who like walked around with me. He was there. He heard all of the shots when it happened. He came out with the camera in the aftermath. He took a lot of photos. But I mean, there's so many bullet holes all through Jimi Hendrix Park. I mean, anybody, you could have been walking your dog. You could have been just enjoying time in that open space, and you could have lost your life just standing there. If you like the northeast corner of the park, like across the street, there's houses over there. I mean, there's bullet holes in those houses. And unfortunately, I talked to some of those residents. They didn't want to go on record, but I mean, you could have been in your living room and got shot. And I mean, we have one person that the police needed to apprehend. And yes, I understand he did just kill somebody. Yes, he did have a gun, but we train police to be ready in situations like this to respond with a level of efficiency that we did not see. And for the police to shoot that many shots into a neighborhood, into a park, that's just unacceptable.
Trey Holiday.
Wow. I mean, this goes back to so much that we talk about on the ground in terms of the reasons to start bringing in some new blood, really, when it comes to a lot of these calls. I mean, we have seen that in the police decree, there are certain things that are not being upheld. We saw throughout the CHOP that there was an abuse of power. This right here is another example almost to that, Mike. And for you to be talking about it with regard to how many bullets were shot, again, it just, for me, I'll be honest here. This is just Treyana speaking, not a representative of anything. But as a mother of raising two Black young men, I worry about their futures often when I think about the fact that there is just this real threat that they think Black men possess. And yes, you're right. He had a gun. He shot someone. all of that. But I was wondering too, well, don't they have ways of shooting in the knee, shooting this, or, getting the gun away from him, some tactical response that they could have deployed? A lot of folks feel like they did what they had to do. But when we talk about the amount of shots, it does give me pause.
I think that what we have right here is an opportunity. And you know what I mean, man, I'm always looking for the opportunity of what could happen. I think this is a good opportunity for police and for people in community to actually have a conversation, and not one of these overinflated, super produced, whatever conversation. This is just a real conversation. Maybe it's just one-on-one. Maybe there's a weapons and tactics specialist from the SPD, and maybe there's just one person from community, and the community member can explain their concerns. Here's a park, here's this, here's that. SPD to explain whatever. Well, this is our tactic of X, you know what I'm saying? And it seems that, there's an opportunity here, perhaps for some understanding. I know a lot of times people consider me Pollyanna and too optimistic and too whatever, but you know what? This tragedy creates an opportunity for Seattle to come out of its silos. Everybody's in a silo right now. It's a silo about this, I believe this, I believe that, I believe whatever. This might present an opportunity for people to really get around the table and talk about these things. Let's talk about maybe some of the issues around an ERPO, or what a building owner can and should do. If they're the property owner and somebody has a weapon there, let's talk about mental health services and the lack thereof. Let's talk about, all these interactions this guy had. Let's talk about the police tactics over there. And you talk about all the shots that were in the park. But one thing for sure is if Seattle goes into its own small silos, as it usually does, then we'll find no progress on this issue.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think you have the perfect platform to pull that conversation together. I think when you look at this situation, you see residents that wanted help, residents that needed assistance. You have a situation where an armed man just killed someone. So the police response was absolutely necessary, but you also have that mental health issue. We have record of SPD dealing with Gregory Taylor's mental health concerns. So, I mean, it would have been a little bit better if SPD could have handled the situation accordingly, knowing that he had those mental health issues. And yeah, I mean, people just need to talk. And this is the perfect opportunity for all sides to come together, because it's clear in this situation that somebody needed to stop the armed man. But I think there was a better way that could have been done.
Yeah, right. Absolutely, Mike. And one thing I will say too is that's why what we see happening, what I see happening in community and on the ground, is a real push, a new initiative that has been forming, but with so many amazing groups. When you think about the Tubman Center for Health and Freedom, when you think about the African American Health Board, there's so many people that are really on the ground saying we need spaces to help certain people with regard to mental illness and mental wellness, how we can bring culturally responsive tactics. That's why I love being able to talk to Ashley McGurk, who says, look, I'm a licensed, clinician here in Washington State, but I understand that there's some other measures here, and having a multitude of people that are working on those. When I think about someone like Michelle Allison working with Infinitely Well in her platform, there's a lot of amazing people that are saying, look, I am here. I have gotten these skills so that I can help my community, because we do need institutions and spaces that bring those kind of people in. When the police deal with a person like a Greg Taylor, they need to be able to take them somewhere where they can receive culturally responsive care. We don't have that in the city, and it's a desperate need.
Right. Well, like I said, for me and for Converge, it was a few things that were really important early on with this story. And one was getting the truth out there that this was a random act of violence. And two was to bring some humanity to those two young women, one of them who passed away. And so, that was very big for us as Converge and for me personally. And I'm glad that like the rest of the media, there's media like our partners, like Mike Davis at the Emerald and like Justin over at Capitol Hill Seattle blog, they're continuing the story, they're continuing the reporting, and they're turning over these stones and some of everything else. And so I appreciate it. And Mike Davis, we're gonna tweet out the article as soon as you get it out here later on today. And I know there's a lot more stuff to come out. And again, putting a call out to the Urban League, Metropolitan Seattle. Man, the community wants to hear from you. And the one thing you should keep in mind, Urban League, is that can't no healing process occur without you. The longer you stay quiet is the longer you delay any kind of healing or resolution in this process. We're gonna pop in right now real quick. There's African American Legislative Day. Are you able to put that up there? We can go 3 up. So it looks like they're talking about something. Yeah, Jay Inslee was on there earlier. Jay Inslee was chopping it up. Talked about a lot with his agenda and things like that. This is the African American Legislative Day presented by the A. Philip Randolph Institute. It was a lot of smoke around this African American Legislative Day. Yesterday, Black Lives Matter, Seattle King County, and we don't have much time for this, Trey. We'll follow it up more tomorrow. But Black Lives Matter, Seattle King County, they said that they weren't going to support the A. Philip Randolph Institute, which is nonpartisan. It's all about, representation. Because A. Philip Randolph Institute had a partnership with King County Equity Now, Black Lives Matter Seattle King County said that they don't agree with some of the policies and the people of King County Equity Now. My friend, it's always a bit. What Rodney King say? Can we all just get along? Free holiday. What's going on?
Well, thank you so much, for bringing this up and mentioning this. I'll say this. I have so much to say, but I'll try to keep it brief. Just Friday, the movie around the Black Panther movement came out called Judas and the Black Messiah. For those who haven't seen it, I'm not trying to just plug that movie, but I want to be very clear here. Divisive tactics when it comes to Black liberation and Black organizing is nothing new to this country at all, by no means. We have seen it time and time again, and really it doesn't really work in terms of bringing real gains to the Black community. I encourage folks to reach out, like our people have said, reach across the aisle if you think you have an issue. Let's figure out how to deal with that issue. But a lot of what they were claiming for King County Equity Now just isn't true. Ultimately, we're about all Black people. It doesn't matter what you claim, if you're binary, non-binary, if you're transgender, if you're gay or lesbian or straight. It doesn't matter. None of that matters to us. And so for us, we're really focused on doing this work on the ground and ensuring that we have a strong supportive system, again, that spans across our youth all the way to our elders. That's what's important. And that encompasses everybody. In our community conference last week, Deontay asked a question. The president of Black Lives Matter Seattle King County said, what about inclusivity? And I addressed it then saying, you're absolutely right. This needs to be as inclusive as it possibly can. For those who have their own agendas or want to move in their own ways or move in silos that you just talked about, that doesn't really bring real gains into the Black community. So for me, I'm all about the unity. I actually had a conversation with Deontay. So for me, I thought we were going to be moving in sidestep with one another, like bringing each other's issues
right.
all the tables that we sit at. Hopefully there's going to be some room to resolve this, because ultimately we really want the Black community to thrive. And that means all of the Black community. Let me get one more thing. Just one more thing. Here. When we had Joy Hollingsworth on of the WBBBA, Washington Build Back Black Alliance, when she was just on last week, and I said, it's amazing some of the things that they're going after and some of what their agenda is, how much it really showcases a lot of what our agenda is. There's so much overlap. We met with NAACP last week. So much overlap. When we can start to bring these movements together, that is what I think is the biggest threat to colonialism. But we have to really do that.
Not cutting you, we still got a whole nother update on KCN, Trey.
Yeah.
So and we got Tony B in the green room, and that's the best voice on in radio. You can't keep Tony B waiting too long, but he's been gracious to give it a few minutes. We're gonna go long today, everybody. But it's a holiday, people are at home, so maybe they can go long with us. And maybe what we'll do, if Mike Davis can stay with us, we'll end this conversation here shortly, and then we'll bring in Tony B so he can go on. And then we'll talk about, I talked to Sean Glades from Black Brilliance Research, and then of course we got Triana here, so we'll talk about that. All of that being said, though, and we'll put the letter up tomorrow. We weren't able to get it in there today, rushing over here in the inclement weather. The letter that Black Lives Matter Seattle King County sent to A. Philip Randolph Institute. And, of course, we don't, Black Lives Matter Seattle King County, and just keep it above board. I don't know enough to keep it any other kind of way. They've never responded to any of our media requests. They've never responded all the way back early on in the early days of the Western Barricade. I would tweet a few things and be like, hey, is this your people? They tweet back like, no, this and that, whatever. But, you know, any formal requests, they've never gotten back to us. You know how I get my press releases that Black Lives Matter Seattle King County sends out? Because we're not on their list. I get them from Hannah Scott at Como. So Como gets the press release. I'm black. This is black media here. But we're not included in Black Lives Matter Seattle King County's distribution list. We actually even reached out to them about that. Like, hey, you know what? We'd like to be included. So you know what? I'm not necessarily going to make a judgment per se on this case or scenario. I think we'll talk about this more probably even tomorrow. I just think, Mike Davis, that on the precipice here, this was yesterday, of African American Legislative Day that started back in 1992 with the push of people like George Fleming. His daughter Yemi went to Garfield. You know what I'm saying? And now it's the 13th annual here of this configuration here with APRI. For this letter to come out, man, it's like the business be in the streets. The mayor said the governor said 365 million for black folks. Is that what's causing all of this?
I hope not. I sincerely hope not. But like you, I mean, you know, Black Lives Matter King County is just, they're not as accessible as some of the other groups. So, you know, I don't want to jump ahead, but I really think that Trey hit the nail on the head. This is not the time to be divisive. Not this month and not this day in particular. I mean, that's the type of thing that you handle in-house. You don't step out here now with all the money on the table and try to take this stance. So it does rub me the wrong way. And, you know, we had that beautiful poem that we opened up to about Black love. So I'm not going to go back to some of the stances that Black Lives Matter King County made during those protests. I'm gonna keep it civil here and just say that, you know, hopefully we can come together and stop the divisiveness.
All right. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna take a quick break. Look at, you know, the camera loves you, Mike Davis. You look good, brother. Can we get 3 up on you?
You got a on and everything.
You know what I'm saying? Mike Davis, I'm ready to trade it all, bro. Please let me get the locks. We're gonna take a quick break right now. When we come back, we're gonna have Tony B, and then we're gonna go long today, everybody. But you're sitting at home, so it's all good. Either in the snow or you got the day off. And after Tony B updates us on the Black History Month programming this week, I talked to Sean Glaze yesterday of the Black Brilliance Research Project. And got an update with them. And of course, Trey Holliday's here. We can hear from KCEN. It's lots of information coming your way today here on the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us. Back on this rap-ish. I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move. Staring at my track list. Hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, CashApp, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury. Back in the green room, we're bringing it here in a second. Not even the green room, they're just over, they're just out of screen. Trey Holiday and Mike Davis, South Seattle Emerald. Want to take a second right there, though. That was a donate break, and say thank you. You know, I feel like, you know, I forget what they call Bernie Sanders when people donating, you know, but we got the $5 army over here, man. And I want to thank everybody, you know, because that's our lowest donation level, man. People come in, I respect you. This $5 army is making a difference. People told me a long time ago, they're like, man, you need to move the lowest tier up and everything else. We rock with the $5 army. I appreciate you. For those guys out there, new to Converge, man, we literally stay on air through your donations. So, you know, you can visit whereweconverge.com/donate, and we appreciate the love, bring you this culturally relevant news and information. Let's go screen up. Who's that in the background back there? What you got going? Is that
you know, that's my son. He loves to be connected when I'm on camera.
Connecting, bro. All right. All your D. Alessandro, please bring in the dean of the class, the best voice in radio, Mr. Tony B.
Hey, what's y'all? Trey, Omari, what's happening, Mike? Good to see you.
What's up, Tony?
Giving you love from over here, man. All the air hugs, Tony B.
Always, all the time.
and you know, the thing is we kept Tony B waiting. And I'm not saying that because he's definitely not a diva or anything like that, but it's just like all respect due. That's the one guy who comes on there. Like sometimes, you know, we'll keep the mayor waiting or something. Like, yeah, okay. But Tony B, we're like, man, we got to get him on precisely. So my apologies, brother, for the few minutes delay here. Why don't you tell us what's going on this week at Rainier Avenue Radio?
Well, cool. As always, let me first start by congratulating you and the Converge team on the work that you're doing in our communities. You know, sometimes that dirty laundry is hanging up on the clothesline. If anybody ever remembers the clothesline, I don't know. That's a long time ago. But yeah, this week in Black History Month, we're going to be celebrating with a number of different events, just like we've been doing all month, starting on Tuesday at 5:30. Tune in for Conversations in Black with Tina Marie. We'll be talking with Mario Bailey, who's the Director of Legends and Player Community Engagement, and Walter Thurman III, former Seahawk player, Super Bowl champion, about Blacks in football. And we'll take a historical look at the contributions of African Americans to, I think NFL is now America's pastime. It might still be baseball, but I think football has overtaken them. That's at 5:30. Then at 7:30, we'll be coming to you live from the historic Columbia City Theater, Kuyate Arts West African dance, music, song. So it's going to be a combination of traditional drumming, dance, and singing. That's Tuesday at 7:30. And y'all know that we celebrate this like continually. So on Wednesday, we'll have our Vivian Phillips is going to be on as part of our Seattle Black History Makers. And for anybody who's under that's the dean. That's she was. I'm gonna take some folks way back. KYAC Soul Radio. That's gonna take some people back, and a lot more since then as well. Vivian will be joining us on Wednesday. You don't want to miss. And she's done a number of things now that you know her for, but her legacy is absolutely remarkable. Then on Wednesday evening, we'll be having our part 2 update for the town hall meeting to discuss the violence in the Rainier Beach Safeway parking lot, what's being done, an update from the last meeting. Of course, it's an open forum discussion, so we're inviting all community members to call, participate. You can join by Zoom. You can call us. This week, it's going to be a little different. We'll be pushing more information out. We have elected officials this time, as opposed to exclusively pretty much just members of our community. So Council Member and President Lorena Gonzalez, King County Council Member Gurmai Zahi Lai. In addition to that, a representative from the police department, again, someone from the Safeway store, and we'll also have the owner of the liquor store, which again, it's not just cut and dry when you're taking a look at things that are taking place. We'll have the owner of King's Donuts, and then we also have the property owner who will be there as well. So that's Wednesday. If you want to find out, and if it's happening in Rainier Beach, it connects all of our South Seattle communities, because there's no line, you know, that says once you get to Rose Street or something, you're no longer impacted. In the fact that everybody does this, everybody communicates with each other, so everybody get involved. And then later on Wednesday night,
Tony.
Yes, sir.
Tony, if I can just jump in here real quick. And just real quick, Mike Davis, because we Tony's breaking down the calendar, but man, this is a real important conversation. I mean, amongst very other important conversations that Tony B is having, because that Safeway parking lot, I'm on quite a few email threads there where it's like, they want to revoke the liquor store's license but he has two businesses next to him that also sell liquor. But is the liquor store really the cause of the issues there, or is it other causes? And then he's the scapegoat. Like, this is an ongoing thing. Just real quick, Mike Davis.
Man, hey, I'm gonna be honest too. Oh, you caught me slipping because I'm looking in my email because as Tony's talking, I'm thinking I was supposed to cover this group of moms. Man, there was some moms who put together an event in that Safeway parking lot promoting nonviolence. And they were trying to like do barbecues and have music and actually just go out there and talk to the youth. You know, these are mothers whose kids were impacted. And bro, you cut me off before I found the email so that I can name their organization. But you're absolutely right, man. That Safeway parking lot, man, somebody got to do something. So I'm so glad that, Tony, you're having that conversation. And, you know, offline, I really would like to send you the link to these moms because I think that they should be a part of that as well.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody should be a part of it. And I will say this now, I certainly hold our elected officials accountable because folks vote for them. But I also think it is incredible that the members of our community step up and try to fill the gaps in the safety net. And so when you do hear these negative things about South Seattle and crime and violence, you know, that tends to stand out because it's sensational. But that's why we try to make sure that we expose a number of different things and amplify a number of different diverse voices on Rainier Avenue Radio, because there are incredible things that happen in our community. And once again, this is just one of those times where that dirty laundry may be aired out on the clothesline, but some people don't know. And so you put it out in the air and they start to sniff and smell it and go, what is that? That's funky, that stinks, you know, and begin to get involved. And so certainly, Mike, yeah, there are a number of different groups that have stepped up from a community level to try and find a number of different ways to resolve this very nuanced and complex issue from a very diverse community. And so part of what has to happen is people need to make sure that they hear other opinions, because there are a lot of opinions about how to deal with this, what to do with this. It's not a silver bullet. It's not one simple answer.
Right. And I'm sorry, did Trey have something there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, just like Mike said really quickly, I have been on email threads about this and trying to support as much as possible. But I think, Tony B, you're absolutely right with regard to people being educated on the issue at all spectrums and really being involved. Stepping up to the plate is necessary right now.
Right.
And one thing, I just want to, because some people put it in the chat. Friday evenings around 6 is when those moms are usually out there. But I really think that that's important to add to that larger conversation that Tony's having, because sometimes, and look, I'm not saying all white folks, but I've had plenty of conversations with white folks and they talk about black on black violence. And there's this false narrative like it's okay with us when really it's not. We step up as black people. We do so much for our communities to heal our communities ourselves. So it's really important to get groups like that in front of the politicians so that they can understand that, no, we care about this just like everybody else needs to care about this.
Yeah.
You see, Tony B, you touched the nerve, man. What else do you have going on after Wednesday or later on that evening, Wednesday, actually?
Later on that evening, Bob Lovelace and friends will be performing. Bob is a musician that plays with a number of different bands and incredibly talented bass player, plays the banjo, plays a number of different things. He's got 4 friends with him who are phenomenal musicians as well. So it'll be kind of a blues rock jam session. That'll be Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. And again, coming from the historic Columbia City Theater. Then on Thursday, John Yasutake, who a number of folks have known in our community. He is our community elder. He'll be hosting a series of readings with a few different folks and poetry to celebrate African American Heritage Month. Also on Thursday, from our Seattle Black History Maker series, we'll be showcasing Elmer Dixon, who will be telling his story. And if people don't know about Elmer's story, just really please tune in for that. Omari Tahar Garrett will be sharing his story, and then Eddie Rye Jr. So these are some of the folks who are Seattle Black History Makers. That's all on Thursday. And then on Friday, it don't stop. You know, we keep going through the whole week. Again, as part of our Seattle Black History Makers series, Dawn Mason, the first, not only just woman, but first Black person elected as to the legislature. Rosa Franklin was in the Senate at the time, and Dawn became the first Black person elected to the House. She'll be joining us along with Bernie Foster. Oh, I'm sure who you know from the Scanner, and part of that incredible period of time when Black media thrived, when you had KYAC and there was all these resources on the air and all these resources that were starting up through print magazine. And I harken back to Freedom's Journal, the first African-American newspaper, with the simple line that said, "Too long have others spoke for us." And that is what's happening now with what's going on. Trish Melanie Zyko, also one of our Seattle Black history makers, will be joining us. Friday's packed. And then on Friday, also the Hartsfield Family Slave Quilt Collection. So if you don't know about quilting or you're not sure about slave quilts and what they were, they have codes embedded in them. Some of them were to guide runaway slaves to safety. Some of them were just more simple things to share with members of the community. And they did this in silence. To share information. White academia doesn't believe that this took place, but as y'all know, in the Black community, oral traditions are how things are often passed down, which is why we have these Seattle Black history makers, so we can get their word on the archive so that folks can go back and listen to them. But the Hartsfield Black slave quilt collection is phenomenal. Check it out. Hear the stories and hear from the gentleman who owns the collection. So if you're unfamiliar, you definitely want to check that. If you're into quilting, you're really going to dig this. And then again on Friday, we're going to have our first workshop for the film Black Family Film Night. We'll be talking about the sales and distribution of films. Anthony Tackett is going to be hosting that. He'll have a panel. And then at 7 o'clock, we'll be showing our film. This film is Changing the Family. It's a Sam Hampton film, and it's essentially how a Black family is dealing with a member of the family coming out as transgender and gender non-conforming. And so we show a variety of different films, try to, again, provide a wide perspective. And then we'll finish the week off on Saturday with the rap performance by Nobi and friends. And that's at noon. You remember American Bandstand? We're not doing it at night. We're doing it in the daytime. And that'll be at noon. So that's next week's calendar. Thank y'all for giving the opportunity for me to share this information again with our community. We want to provide a wide breadth of experience. And the hope is that folks will tune in and they'll go, hey, I like this. I don't have to wait until February to expose myself to the breadth of culture and the part of the Black experience. It's civil rights is important. Slavery is important, but our day-to-day existence, is not one monolithic thing. We are a very diverse group of individuals, and all of that factors into our Black American history, which is, of course, American history.
Well, I'll tell you this, Tony B., the dean of the class, there's absolutely nobody, at least on this kind of similar platforms, that interviews and talks to more people than Tony. I bet I wish I could keep up with it. I don't know what the secret. I know what the secret is. It's commitment. You know what I'm saying? It's and you've been committed. Tony B., thanks so much for joining us. Real quick, what's the website everybody can get you at?
Oh, RainierAvenueRadio.world. That's RainierAvenueRadio.world. Download the app, and then you don't have to worry about which format you can find us on. You can just go to the app, and that'll solve all your problems. Mike, Trey, keep up the great work. Yeah, great stuff you guys are doing here and bringing these issues to light. Just really quickly, I remember a conversation someone was having with me where they disagreed with some of the things that we were saying. And it was great to point out that at least there was that option that now you have Black media to agree with or disagree with, because there should be that option. We don't always have to agree on everything, but for our voices not to be heard and the only messaging you get from mainstream media and you don't hear these things, that's the issue. So, we'll strive for unity. We'll strive to get together. But the reality of the way the world works is it's good to hear voices, and everyone's not always going to agree, but, we can figure out how to work together despite those disagreements. We're going to have to.
There it is. It's always great to hear your voice, Tony B. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, Whew, it's Black Brilliance, KCN. You're watching the Morning Update Show. All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm joined by my co-host Trey Holiday and Mike Davis of the South Sierra Emerald. Mike Davis, thank you for being so gracious to join us for this hour, which is actually going to be more than an hour. You know, I think I've seen your hair grow longer over the last 45 minutes.
Yeah, I like hanging out with y'all, man. This is fun.
All right, good stuff. Okay, so it was about a week ago, and man, what a roller coaster week last week was. It was about 1 week ago where Black Brilliant, it was a lie. Black Brilliance basically said that, some of the cohort over there, they said that they were cutting ways with King County Equity. Now, they listed a bunch of different grievances, and some of the grievances were like, ink on paper things, and some of the grievances were about people's character and how they act and everything else. And for me, man, I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. I really wanted to keep it really on, okay, well, man, what can we go to ink on paper and kind of prove and everything else? Some of those things you addressed last time we talked, Trey Holiday. Last time we talked, you talked about there was late payments and this and that. We brought that part out. We talked about an ideology that some of the Black Brilliance researchers, they're going one track, King County Equity down, or they're going a different track on things. Either way, in a forward-focused kind of interview here with Sean Glaze, I just asked her a few different questions. I asked them a few different questions as to what's going on with Black Brilliance since the break with King County Equity now.
It's been about a week now since the Black Brilliance research, this cohort, this group of researchers kind of cut ways and went a different direction with KCEN. Really wanted to focus, though, on, okay, well, what have you been up since? You guys went another direction? What have you been up to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, technically, I would say that the parting of ways happened in late December, early January. So we have been at work, busy, collecting data, reporting, producing things to get us ready for participatory budgeting. So it's kind of same old for us. Teach-ins, office hours, collecting data, and writing this report.
Right. And when you talk about a report, it brings up an interesting question. The previous conversations around this report, and I guess what's on the calendar over there at City Council is that the report is due on February 26th, which is in about, around 2 weeks. Are you planning on reporting then, or are you going to push back the date? Because I know with King County Equity now had talked about pushing the date back, and I think contractually you got all the way until March 31st.
Right. Well, I don't see any reason to push back the report. We have been collecting data for months now. It is really just tying the bows around different pieces of it. So there's not really any need to push it back. It's also important that we keep to this timeline so that we can meet community's timeline of kicking off participatory budgeting, which is going to put millions of dollars into community's hands. And so we're just keeping track, keeping our commitments to community and moving forward.
Right. And so just to be clear, then Black Brilliance research, the researchers are still researching, I guess we would say.
Yep.
The community, they're still giving surveys and some of everything else. Is this, since you brought it up that they're still working, and so there's still a funding effort behind these researchers that are in that group?
Yes, absolutely. And I know many of the teams have also been kicking off their own fundraising efforts to support the work that they do, not just the research, but other projects, because most of these teams are so deeply connected to longstanding community efforts that they just need to keep going. So absolutely moving forward, on track to deliver our report this month. And we're so excited for next steps. I definitely want to make sure people know that there's still time if they want to be part of making sure their voices are reflected in that research report that we're putting together. They check out the survey, that they connect with us in office hours, that they attend our teach-ins, and all of that information is on our little micro site, which I will also share. I will say it out loud. It's eztree.me/Black Brilliance Research. That's eztree.me/Black Brilliance Research. And there you can find the report, the survey. You can also find our office hours and just any other information to get involved.
All right. But before we go over to Trey Holiday on this, Mike Davis, you've been following this for the last week. And, we want to let Trey respond and everything else. But what are your thoughts around this situation here?
I would like to see unity personally. I mean, that's the only dog I got in any of this is the Black community has to win, and we can't divide if we want to conquer. So I really wish that we could be together. I'm happy to hear Sean say that, the Black Brilliance Project, they're continuing. It sounds like the report will still be done. I mean, I ain't lost no love for K-Sin, and I won't. So I mean, I'm really interested in what Trey has to say, but man, unity. Can we have unity? It's Black History Month. I just want unity.
Right. And okay, Trey Holiday, a few things here. One, I mean, really, what is King County Equity now? Maybe it's been a week since it apparently was made public that whatever this break is. So that's one thing right there. But also, what have you guys been up to? But also, is this February 26th date in front of City Council? Is that still happening? Is that still realistic? Or is the date moved now as to when a final report is due to the council?
I think, I'm glad that you actually mentioned what the date looks like in terms of the end of Q1. So that does actually mean that we would have the ability to work through the month of March to, again, ensure that there is a real community-rooted research process happening. And again, I will say that what the Black Brilliance researchers have done thus far is amazing. Nobody is taking away any credit for all of the efforts that so many volunteers, bringing researchers into this, paid researchers, volunteer leads have been doing great work. The one thing that I will say when Sean just mentioned, well, there was a break in late December or early January, it was because we began talking about a community research panel to overlook the projects so that more voices are included. It's exactly what I was reporting on last week when the letter broke out. Ultimately, we're not about this division. We really are not. And in terms of the community being monolithic, it is not. Ultimately, it isn't. And so that's why we have to bring all of our brilliance to bear. Whether you have, this group on lock or this group or that group, it's important that we're all really figuring out the best ways to have a collective voice at the end of that report that is going to govern the participatory budgeting process that is going to lead the nation. This is what we're talking about here. We met with Councilmember Morales. I know that they also have been meeting with Councilmember Morales' office in terms of how can we work together to get this thing done, but do it in a way that is still representative of so many more voices. That's all we've been wanting to do is bring more voices into the project, have a different process with regard to which projects will be funded so that it's not just on King County Equity Now leadership or, our staff or even volunteer leads, that it is something that is actually representative of a bunch of different voices. That's really been our process, and that's what we're pushing for,
Speaking of voices, I hear them youngsters back there. Those are voices that want to be heard. I would say this, and it's kind of awkward because when we started off this show, this was really a COVID education show and small things about the community of this and that. And over the last 12 months, we turned 1 year old on March 19th. All kinds of different things that happened, divisions that happened, and a division happened where Triana went community and I went, hey, news and some everything, which is fine. But I really want to direct this question. I only preface that to bring this up to Mike Davis and let the audience know that I'm not cutting Triana out. But, clearly Triana is part of King County Equity Now as well. But Mike Davis, you know, early on, it was interesting, right? So early on, an early group that was out there was King County Equity Now. Then some of the other groups came onto the scene. I was like, you know me, I'm all for diversity of voices. I'm like, hey, what's up? What's up? What's this and that? And one of the first questions I started asking people is like, why are you better than the other group? What do you bring that's different? What do you bring that's whatever? And a lot of responses like, oh, it's kumbaya and everything else. But I hear you saying like unity and all that. And really, I'm for unity as I'm for a fair fight. What I'm not for is cutting off of the legs. And I'm not implying anything with this Black Brains thing or KCN, but I'm for a fair fight. And I really feel as a constituent of the Black community in Seattle, I should be able to challenge any of these groups and challenge any of them for them to tell me, why should I support you and not the other group, and not get some kumbaya answer saying like, well, we're all Black, we should support each other. Nah, man, the Black community been betting on the wrong horse for decades and we keep losing. And I think personally, brother, it's imperative that we check all of these organizations and be like, why should we back you? Are you going to deliver a victory? What's your track record? I mean, that's just me. I don't think that we should kumbaya just to kumbaya. But at the same time, I don't feel like nobody should be down in Olympia cooning either.
I agree. I do. But I think that there's a space to have those conversations that doesn't always have to be public facing. And when I say public, I mean outside of the Black community. If we're going to have those conversations, let's have that within ourselves, and let's not put everything out, to others, because it's just not a good look. And one of you spoke on this, and I'm not sure which one, but the magnitude of what we're looking at here, the amount of money that's going to get pumped into this community, it's major. So I don't want to see anything derail that. I don't want to see anything that could lead to any backtracking on that. I want to see the progress, and I'm here for the progress. So no, it's not automatic. No, we shouldn't just jump behind the big dog.
So what you saying, Mike, is that it's not a bad thing for me to be challenging all these people. You remember what movie was that? Was that Brewster's Million, where they're like, vote none of the above? You know what I'm saying? Like me personally, and there's no disrespect to anybody, but any of these groups are really gonna have to sell me. You see what I'm saying? And in a real way. And just because you're Black and you're well-intended doesn't mean that somebody like me or any just regular, and I'm not saying me as a journalist, part of Converge, me as a stakeholder in our Black community should just jump on board. But I also do hear you that it's like people kind of throwing these grenades out there, you know what I'm saying? And maybe some of these discussions we might be able to handle better internally. Is that what you're saying?
That is. And I will also say too that, what kind of rubs me a little bit, it just makes me feel a little bit weird about the situation with all three organizations that we've mentioned today, is the fact that the conversation isn't the Black community stepping up and saying, hey, what are you doing for us? To me, it feels like the conversation has become a little bit divisive, where it's finger pointed from one organization to another. And that's what I don't want to be a part of. Yeah. I don't want to step into this and say, well, Black Lives Matter, King County said this, and then K says, no, like, I don't want the he said, she said. I don't want the division, because I don't want it to be a choice between this organization or that organization. I'm 100% fine with community holding organizations accountable, but we can hold them accountable without pitting them against each other, is what I'm trying to say.
You know what, Mike? This is exactly why so much of what my whole platform is, and it's kind of like what Omari said about the Pollyanna syndrome. Like, I actually believe in what we're doing right now. And I don't mean just we as in King County Equity Now. I mean, we as a Black community, the fact that we do have major groups coming together, like the Washington Build Back Black Alliance, like folks that are involved with King County Equity Now, like folks that have been involved with Black Lives Matter Seattle King County, or Black Brilliance Research, all the researchers. This is what my whole thing has been, is that there is no real need for divisiveness. And I'll tell you this again, after watching that movie on Friday and having a long talk with my sons, I went down a complete rabbit hole of the history right here in America, and how it is rooted when you're talking about groups stepping up for Black liberation. They were doing this with the Panthers. They were doing this with SNCC. They were doing this with SCLC. There was always something going on around, hey, you know what, this group has said this about you. And then it stopped them from doing a lot of the major work. But ultimately, our community cannot deal with that any longer at the end of the day. Everybody has something to bear here. Everybody is a part of this continual fight for Black liberation. And when you're talking, Omari, about a group needing to sell you, ultimately, it is about how we bring the brilliance to bear that are in all of these groups. That's my point, is that there is no one group that's better than this group or better than this group or better than this one. Unfortunately, it is unfortunate that groups want to like throw these bombs out there. But really all I'm saying, and this is Trayana as a mom raising two boys who grew up in the Central District and graduated from Garfield High, I'll say this without any barriers on me, whether it's King County Equity Now or Africa Town or anything else. Ultimately, what we need in our community is we do need unity. And some people are not going to come to that table. Some people are not going to want to be held under a community covenant that says, look, this is how we move. This is how we build trust. These are the things that we need to exemplify when we talk about reforming the police department or complete abolition. What does that look like if we don't have solidarity amongst the brilliance that's within our community? So I love what you're talking about here, Mike, because it really isn't about one group over this group or this, oh, we're better than them because of this. No, everybody has their agendas. Everybody has things they're working toward. One of the things that really uplifts me during this time is the fact that so many of us are talking about the same things. The same research that the Black researchers are bringing to bear is the very reason why we have so many Black-led nonprofits all throughout the city, because they saw voids, they saw gaps, and they said, nobody is going to come and do this work. We have to do this work with regard to tearing down the school to prison pipeline, with regard to things like creative justice and community passageways, Bill 206. I name these groups all the time. Choose 180. That's about literally taking a whole different pathway. When we think about community land trusts like Africa Town, this is important because we do need to have ownership over the land. We do need to be involved in development projects that wreck our communities to bear. So ultimately, we have a lot of brilliance here. And if we are really looking back to look forward, we would learn from the lessons of division. We would learn from the fact that has never helped the Black community. And ultimately, it kills a lot of these movements. So we really have to be part of that.
I'm going to just say this, though. You know what I'm saying? On the real, is that I think that as Black people, we do ourselves a disservice just because somebody says they Black and they want to help, that they supposed to be welcomed with open arms. You know what I'm saying? What if their ideology is crap? What if their results are proven not to get results? What if they're big time gatekeepers just because they Black and we Black? Whoa, welcome into the circle. We supposed to be in unity. Man, let the losers worry about losing. You know what I'm saying? It's time for Black people to win. How come we can't be selective and be like, yeah, you're a loser. Get out of here. We're backing winners. But instead, we get pulled into this pot where we know in this pot, we got gatekeepers. We got people who've been less than ethical, but never been charged with a crime. We got people who don't have our best intentions in heart. And I'm not saying in any particular organization, because a lot of these names are new right now to this George Floyd movement and everything in Seattle. I'm saying over the last 20, 30 years, this has been a problem in our community. But you know what we do because we Black? We like, oh, well, let's just welcome all the Black folks back into the tent because ain't nobody out there really going to put it down and be like, nah, dog, you know what? You done had 3-4 misappropriation charges with the people's money. Get out. Nah, man, you know what? You were supposed to manage this, and that. Get out. And don't nobody got the guts for that in our community. And everybody wants to sit here and hug everybody. So you know what? I'll be an outlier on this. But I'm saying let the losers worry about losing. And people that have sold our community out, people that have misappropriated funds, people that have actively worked against us, people that was part of bringing in weed and seed, but now still around. Nah, I'm not going to support that. I'm not going to be like, oh, we need to be on some unity. They need to get the fuck out. I mean, that's just how I feel. You know what I'm saying?
But but what you're saying is absolutely right. What I'm saying doesn't negate what you're saying. Let's be real here. When I talk about learning from the past, a real Sankofa model means we are looking back to understand how to move forward. So what you are bringing about here today, brother, is real. That is real. We can no longer be held by those same standards that have actually allowed gentrification to wreck our entire Central District and South End. That is something that I'm saying here. That is another reason why there are new entities forming, because the old ones were not getting certain things done. What I am saying is this, is that there are some people that have brilliance that have been brought to bear. And yes, we do need to atone for the gatekeepers that have been holding us down, those who have been misappropriating funds, those who have been going into Olympia with selfish tendencies, looking at development as another revenue stream for them and their homeboys or homegirls to be a part of all of this, or anybody who's even non-binary. At the end of the day, you are right, brother. And this is why I'm talking about the brilliance being brought in. I'm not talking about those tactics of gatekeeping and the things that have actually held us down. I'm talking about people who are new to this, people who are old to this, people that actually care about the Black community in general. That's what I'm talking about. And it is very clear that there are certain entities that have not done that time and time again. That is what literally birthed Africa Town. It was nobody was doing the work. Africa Town finally was like, no, we need to step up. We need to become developers. We need to stop this. We need to disrupt gentrification. That is only one example. And when we have so many amazing organizations that are actually in our community, connected to the ground, connected to the streets, they're not staying inside of the governor's mansion and over down here in Olympia only talking to those people. No, they're doing it all. They are on the ground. They are in Olympia. They're at the mayor's table. They're at the governor's table, and they're saying the same thing across the board. Now, that's the brilliance that I'm talking about unifying with. That's the brilliance I'm talking about in terms of collectivism.
Let me tell you this. I'm gonna throw it over there to Mike Davis, and let me get a solo up, Oya. And I want to be very clear, 100%. To just because you Black and you might have some letters behind your name and you might have whatever, you know, if your intentions are not good to our community, I'm not going to stay quiet. Tony B talked about it twice. He alluded to it. He said, man, that dirty laundry sometimes need to get aired. 2021 is like, man, it might be a lot of dirty laundry on the line. But you know what? All these decades of you know who you are, taking advantage in our community, taking advantage of Black people. Look at this graph. Every single demographic of Black people in this city is in decline. And a lot of you people was involved with that. Or even now you want to profit off of some of the same policies in place. So I'm letting you know, me, Omari Salisbury, I see you, and man, I'm not going to let it slide. Anyways, Mike Davis, your thoughts?
Look, I think you're absolutely right. I don't disagree with you. I only want to say that we make sure that we are judging these organizations on their own merit and not judging them based off others, or we're not taking part in any of the infighting that may happen. Right. It is absolutely our responsibility to hold them accountable. And I mean, when you look at the article that I just wrote and how I had to speak of the Urban League, like I don't want to go after the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. That's not my goal here. But if I do the reporting and I'm looking and I'm seeing that the facts are the facts, then we're going to speak on the facts always. And the facts will always come to light. So yes, we will hold everyone accountable, just on an individual basis and not in support of any.
And I agree with you, Mike. And that's why even with the break between Black Brilliance and KCEN, I haven't gone into this, like you say, down the rabbit hole of is it this and that, man, me. Right. I just want to go on the facts. You know what I'm saying? Clearly, this is two Black organizations here that have found a reason for an impasse. And I think that we could probably discuss this more tomorrow, but they found a reason for an impasse. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, man, let's speak to the facts. Let's speak to what's going on here. Let's speak to ink on paper, because I definitely don't want to be drawn into, well, you know, they said this and they said that and they said this and they said that and everything else. And I really just wish, bruv, that these organizations ultimately, if they do have some of the end result, and I'm not for people all working together. I'm for, as in they have to be one. Me and Marcus Harrison Green of the Emerald, man, we work together, but he got his own operation. the South Seattle Emerald. Me and Tony B, we work together. But you know what I'm saying? That's Rainier Avenue Radio. He got his own operation. We run our stuff differently and everything else. So I'm not one of them people that's saying everybody needs to be as one. Nah, man, it's Converge, fam. You know what I'm saying? Bad. This our space. But what I am saying is this, and you know this recently, and not to be whatever, me and Marcus had a disagreement on quite a few things. You know what I'm saying? But we was able to pull each other to the side because ultimately me and Marcus at the Emerald are trying to work towards the same destination. It's like, all right, fam, we're going to have to sit down and talk about it. We worked it. It was like,
I got to point this out, though. Oh, nobody in the audience would have known that happened if you hadn't said it. And I think that that is a valid piece, too.
That's
like these things don't have to come out. People could talk. You and Marcus had you all talked. You didn't need no media. You didn't need no leaked letters. None of that. You know what I'm saying?
No anything.
That's how we actually handle things in the Black community, period. And I'm gonna say this again: when we are sitting here doing like this at one another, you know what we're not doing? Focusing that energy on this system, focusing that energy on the ones who have been wielding their power time and time again. When I think about the Washington State Housing Finance Commission and what they're doing in terms of not providing any resources for development projects in Seattle, that's where all of the Black-led development projects are right now. And ultimately, that is a huge mistake for them to try to take that stance. We need to be coming together to fight them. That's what I'm saying, is that there are larger things at play here. And ultimately, nobody is going to be sitting here. I'm a Black woman. So first and foremost, I'm not going to be sitting here, oh, you did this, you did that. I don't got time for that at the end of the day, because my community will not thrive if I'm focused on that. At the end of the day, I need to be making sure that we are having our campaigns just like we do. You guys can find the quorum campaign that we have right now against Washington State Housing Finance Commission, so that you can send your letters to your elected officials and all that are involved in this, so that they can hear from the wide variety of Seattleites and not just the Black community. Because this is, again, we've seen it time and time again. So many people are like, look, it's not just Black people who need to resolve these issues. White people need to see themselves as a part of the solution to these issues as well, because oftentimes it is going to be them that have to face bigotry and hate in their own families and get people to be educated. And ultimately, all of y'all are so right on this issue, that there's a multi-pronged effort here, and we need to make sure that our energy is focused on the right enemies and not each other, no matter what the history is. That ultimately there is a lot of things at play here that are happening underneath our noses and beneath our feet. And if we do not be firm about all of that and make sure that we are educating the people on that, so that our community can be a part of these processes, we're doing our community a big disservice, man.
Yeah, speaking of, like I said, when we don't want to do the community a disservice, and I think the world today, man, this still feels like 2020. I don't even know what day of the week it was today. Monday? Oh yeah, it's all you says is Monday, so I'm gonna believe her. So I think that we'll probably pick up this conversation here around this research, because this is very important, Trayana, and I think that you would agree that, considering that the taxpayers of the city of Seattle, a conduit through city council, has made an investment here on this research of $3 million and some of everything else, that not even on a finger pointing of who did this or what or anything else, but it's just important that the citizen stakeholders of the Emerald City, and especially us people here in the Black community, that we understand exactly what's going on and what the next steps are and everything else. So let's give everybody a few days, and maybe we'll update again on this topic, maybe on Thursday or Friday. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
All right. And as far as is African American Legislative Day, do you still have a screen share going on that? Oh, yeah. All right. You'll bring that in here real quick. Let's see what they're doing. Hey, is that Tawana Nobles?
Hey, Tweena Nobles.
We got them?
Because there typically is not the same type of evidence left behind.
I think that's what, District 28?
But we still want to make sure that we are holding perpetrators accountable by putting funds towards those examinations. And then I have also dropped a data collection bill for police accountability and transparency that would collect data on use of force, as well as a Parks RX, so prescribing parks and recreation for healing for community members, a mental health sentencing alternative. So when our community members are having interactions with law enforcement and they're struggling with mental health issues, that we are looking at sentencing alternatives for those community members. And And then my very first bill that passed off the Senate floor is near and dear to me because I have experienced foster care, but it's a bill to require a point of contact at all of our school sites for students who are experiencing foster care. There are currently district liaisons, but this would require every school
Trey,
site
Trey,
to
you
have
can
someone
pull
who
it
will
out.
know
Oh
their
yeah,
feelings.
Trey Holiday. The representative sound like maybe your twin sister or something. Well, she's just sitting up there just firing it off. Huh? I mean, that was just random timing. We just checked in on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And just shout out to Twina Nobles because honestly, it is leaders like her that make me really excited about our political processes. When I know that people like her are down there getting the real work done. She also just released Senate Bill 5448, and that is to try to get all of our taxpayers to have a different way to pay for their car tabs. Now, we know that that's something that affects a lot of communities of color, those from the global majority, often with regard to a large expense coming out at one time. She is proposing that there is a payment plan that allows people to pay on it so that they don't have to worry about that expensive fee all at once. But shout out to Twina, man. She is doing the job down there. And there's so many great people that are really doing this work. And it's exciting. When I hear that, and we caught it at the right moment, you're absolutely right, Oh. I'll take her as my twin any day.
She's down there, look like they's down there putting in some work, Mike Davis.
Yeah, man. I mean, yo, we caught her at a moment in that clip where she's hitting on a lot of what we just talked about right here. So, yo, man, I'm excited. Like, that's what we need. Let's talk about mental health issues and how police is dealing with this. And she's on the money. She's on the money.
All right. Well, one thing for sure that we love to do here on Converge is to be able to have these conversations. And so, any stakeholder who's out there, you're more than welcome here. People continuously come back on our platform because they know that it's fair, and I mean, and if there's something that I learned that I'm wrong, this whatever about, man, I'm real quick to just be like, hey, you know what? I was wrong. How can we, correct this or whatever? But there's a platform for conversation. Like I said, it would be great to get a conversation going now around this tragedy that happened up there at the Northwest African American Museum, because so many things intersect around it. So many different things converge around it. And Seattle's known for its silos. And this would be great to get people out of their silos and on this conversation. We're going to update everybody tomorrow as the outcome of the African American Legislative Day, but also let you know that it's going to be streaming live here on Converge until about 2:30. So after the morning show here, you can just go to wherever you're watching the morning show and you can be able to see that stream right there. Mike Davis and Triana Holiday, my mama always says that we can't leave the audience in an affected way. And man, it's been some heavy news today. And so it's very rare that we ever do this on the morning update show, but we need to bring some woo-saw to the set. So we're going to run this Black Love back one more time.
Black love, 50-50 has never been a real thing. See, black love requires you to be unconditionally committed. So if accurate math is a requirement for your sacrifice, you have already chosen wrong. Sometimes I'm the lyrics and the instruments only asking him to sing along. Sometimes he is the verse. We just simply want to be a song sung. Be the moon and the sun and a sky that it always has room, existing always unconsumed. We won't fight about who gave more because we know that math is unnecessary to graph. Black love is unequivocally the most powerful, but also the most opposed. It grows through the toughest of concrete cracks. It's a healer of all things black. It soothes. Like the gospel, it's the good news. It saves and survives again and again. It evolves like creation learned land after it originally learned to swim, a reinvention through time. My favorite color has always been and always will be black. And if I can love in that shade unafraid, I'd have it no other way. They say black is and black ain't. But if you'd allow me to paint our love's light, Kahindi wildly bright, I'm sure you'd see the masterpiece we are and have always been. Black love is where love itself begins. Our love grips the soil like the roots of old trees. Our love endures every storm and every breeze. Our knees soar because we'll refuse to fold, be it the warmth, the summer's promise, or the real of the winter's cold. Black love is soul food, warmed up the next day. Better because we chose to stay. There is something so beautiful about holding on. I am sometimes asking him to be what he's never seen. Sometimes penalized for another's failure or lies. She wants to trust, but a vessel broken sometimes can't contain or have room for more pain. So she is bursting all the time without cause. See, black love chooses, or rather decides, to love beyond our flaws. Black love beats the odds. After told it's somehow some inferior iteration, we know that black love is God's creation. You make me feel like I've swallowed a jar of butterflies. My heart flutters and rain fills my eyes. I've tried to resist the overwhelm of this. I am sometimes remiss in telling you how often my heart skips. Who could predict we'd make it through the thin and thick? Sometimes square pegs and round holes fit the math. That doesn't always add up. But we've showed our work, added the truth, and subtracted the hurt. There is no test we cannot pass. So when they ask us how, we'll say it's more about why.
There it is. You know, we had to you know, people talk about you got to center ourselves, we had to bring it back. You know, what did you say, Trey?
Yeah, stay centered. Only way to do this, man.
Big
If
shout
I
out
was
to
centered, I'd
Tia.
be going crazy. So that was great. Thank you again.
All right, so man, it's a lot of stuff we didn't get to today, but I think we had an important discussion that the community appreciates. You know what I'm saying? So like tomorrow, man, it's a lot of stuff here. Tomorrow looks like Tina Hendricks and the Hendricks Academy, they won in court. An arrest made in the Sawant case. You know, people were threatening, somebody was threatening Sawant and everything else. I'm glad that an arrest was made, and we'll talk about this tomorrow more. But, you know, I'd like to challenge, you know, because Councilmember Sawant came out there and said, hey, the police haven't done something. And that's good that there was an arrest made. And I'd like to challenge Councilmember Sawant tomorrow to partner up with a lot of these parents that are in her district, D3, whose children were killed, but they haven't heard back from the Seattle Police Department. So maybe she can as well further them and bring awareness to what's going on around the lack of arrest in those cases. What else we got here, man? You know, we lost Sonic's guy. So it's a lot of stuff to talk about tomorrow. But before we get out of here today, look, Mike Davis, South Seattle Emerald. Any last words?
Nah, man, just thanks for having me. It's an important conversation. And if you want to continue it, man, I'm here. Just call me.
All right, good stuff. And thank you for staying along with us, man. This was a show that was supposed to be 60 minutes, and we're almost an hour and 45 minutes. Also, thanks for
Yeah.
To all you.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Mike, your perspective being particularly in this discussion was so appreciated. And I really am glad that you were able to stick with us. Thanks, man. And thank you all, always.
Yeah, oh yeah, D. Alessandro, she stuck in. I don't know if she got into what knew what she was in for today in this extended show. Any last words for you, Trey Holiday?
You know what? I just ask everybody to move in peace and love as much as you possibly can. I know that that's what centers me all the time. I'm always grounded in the wisdom of elders, and I appreciate all of them, the whole village that has built me and continues to build me. Be peaceful, y'all.
All right. As usual, want to remind everybody to go forward in your purpose and go forward in your humanity. Until tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Sing it again now. Whoa.